Thank you for joining us, everyone. So we have Don Lambert with us today from Ann Arbor ITS. Don is the service manager for the University of Michigan AI Services. Um, so we've got Don for a half hour today. He's going to do a brief presentation on the current offerings of generative AI from the University of Michigan. We will be answering questions during this, so if you do have a question, feel free to put it in the chat. Um, and he will be talking about some future enhancements and features that'll be coming down the road for generative AI with the university. So with that said, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Don, and you can get started.
Thank you, Joel. So yeah, as mentioned, I got to present a little bit, just give you the background on some of the tools, just in case you're not aware of them. I'm also going to talk about some of the enhancements we made this fall, and then I'll give you near the end, I'll give you some future of what we're working on over the next couple months. So um, the university, is offering three major AI services for our communities, and our communities are all four campuses. So UMGPT, this is our alternative to ChatGPT. This meets the university's security requirements, privacy requirements. It's also accessible from an ADA standpoint, and it's also equitable, and nobody has to pay for it. It's a free service for everybody on campus. Um, so it has, should feel very much like ChatGPT to you. You can ask it questions, it'll respond. We also have the options for DALL-E, so you can actually generate images with it as well. And we actually do offer a third large language model called Llama. And by having multiple large language models, you can actually compare and contrast the quality of the answers you get from each model. Um, Maizey is probably the tool I'm most excited to talk about. Maizey is a tool that allows you to bring your own data and quickly make an AI assistant for yourself. So when we think about our faculty members, they can leverage the content they already have in their Canvas sites, and very quickly they can make an AI tutor that is customized to their course. If you are working in a help desk, if you have things like a bunch of knowledge base articles or websites that have answers, you can leverage that data and make a help desk assistant. It's also good, good for other types of things you might want to do. I know people have used it for helping in job search. I know people use it to help, review other types of data, working on things from an accessibility standpoint. One of the big uses at the Ann Arbor campus is they use Maizey as part of a ticket triaging tool. So it reviews incoming support requests and then helps route them to the right location based on knowledge of the organization. Um, Maizey is a for-fee service. I say that because it's true, but it's also been in a rate holiday since it was released last September. So there is no cost to use it through the end of this calendar year. And if I was gonna place my bets, I would say that'll get extended again, probably another several months. Um, and a lot of why we're making it, available at no cost is we want people to experiment. We want people to understand it, um, you know, find the value in it before we have to figure out what the recharge models look like. It does require a short code today. The short code is really a gatekeeping feature more than anything else. We're not actually building those short codes, but we are, students typically don't have short codes available to them, so that does keep students out. The last of the services is what we refer to as Toolkit. This is for people that are developers. If you want to use, or researchers, if you want to use the large language models, if you want to use the AI and build your own thing with it, Toolkit was really designed for you. And in this case, you pick up the data protection agreements, the centralized billing, the security, everything that we're already offering. You just kind of pick up as a service. So you don't, it hopefully lets you go straight to development and not have to worry about, oh, how do I get a contract? How do I pay for this? These types of things. Um, Across all of these tools, they were all built with the following considerations: privacy, security, accessibility, and equitability. So from a privacy and security standpoint, you should feel comfortable to put university moderate data in this. So you can put personally identifiable information or student records, FERPA type data. All of this is in a virtual private cloud. Your questions and answers are not being shared with any outside third party organizations. We probably have heard that AI is trained on the questions you asked. In our case, that's not how we handle it. Privacy was a key consideration at the university, so we wanted to make sure that you could interact with the AI and not have to worry about your information somehow leaking out. A couple other comments on the ideas of privacy here. Privacy, is really our foundation. So as I mentioned, none of your stuff is ever being used to help train the model in the future. We definitely have researchers like, oh, I'd love to look at the logs. I'd like to see what types of questions and answers are being asked. This would be a great resource for research, and because of our privacy concerns, we don't allow that. So you should feel comfortable that your conversation with the AI is private between you and the AI. Um, this does give us some challenges. From time to time, we get faculty members that say, hey, I'd really like to know what types of questions my students are asking. Are they getting good answers? If I knew what types of questions they were answering, I could address them in class. Again, our privacy policy does not allow that. Now, the solution in that space is students have the option to export and share the conversations they're having with AI. And this lets them, opt into what they want to share, what they don't want to share. So, again, they control the privacy, they control their data.
Hey, Don, we had
Yep.
one question pop up when you were talking about the models
Certainly.
available.
Yep.
Um, they were wondering what version of the Llama model and is it being hosted on-prem or in the
Yeah,
cloud?
the Llama model is hosted on-prem. It's the 3.170 billion model. So, but yes, the Llama model is hosted on-prem. The downside to being hosted on-prem is we have limited capacity because I only have two servers that it's running on top of. For more information about our privacy and security, and this slide deck will be shared with you. You can go out and you can read our privacy terms and conditions. We're in the VisiBlue and sensitive data guide, so you can actually, you know, look at and understand what our terms of service are. So as I mentioned, UMGPT, straightforward. This is our no-cost solution. This is what's available, to everybody on all campuses today. Um, Recent updates we made. So we are running GPT 4.0 these days. We do have and will shortly be running the new O1. As soon as OpenAI drops the preview tag and it becomes a supported model from their point of view, we'll have access to it. As I again mentioned previously, that DALL-E 3 for images, Llama 3.1. Limitations we do have today is today. You can't upload files, pictures, or anything like that. That should be resolved by the time we get to winter break. So you'll be able to upload files going forward. And we've also recently improved the LaTeX formatting. So if you're looking for symbolic mathematics, our output's much better these days. Misleading weather costs. So UMGPT, there is no cost. It's available for free for faculty, staff, and students at all four campuses. Um, at the current time, we don't have any offerings for non-U of M students. Um, a quick overview on Maizey. Again, Maizey allows you to take your data and bring it in and use that, use your data as the knowledge for the AI. You can, today get your data from, Google Drives. You have public websites. If The College of Engineering at U of M, at Ann Arbor's lecture capture system, Canvas, Dropbox, YouTube is on the way. And Kaltera lecture capture is on the way as well. As I mentioned, this is a build for service, but we've not build for it in, over a year. Um, if you're using Canvas today, as part it, using Maizey connected to your Canvas course, there's $1,000 allocation. Um, Today, that doesn't make a whole lot of difference because, again, I mentioned it's not billed for. Going forward, this is our plan, though, that if you're using Maizey for courses, we're going to give you an allowance every semester for your course to defray those costs. Other thing that was a summer update was you can now use multiple sources for your data. So in the past, you used a single Google Drive or a single Canvas course, a single Dropbox folder. Now you can use any combination of those. So you can have your Canvas course. You can also point to things you might have on a website. You can also point to, different Dropbox directories. Um, so you have a lot more flexibility in where you're going to bring your data in to be that knowledge for the AI. The other thing you can do now with the solution is you can actually schedule when's it going to be reindexed. The reason you want to pay attention to reindexing is, again, let's assume you're working in a course and you release new information every week. You want the AI to refresh so that it understands the newest information.
Don, looks like two more questions.
Sure.
The first one, what are the costs and can we build a GPT or, chatbot for use with non-UM students, such as prospective students? Um,
Yes, let's answer that one first. So Um, through the traditional Maizey interface, there is not a way to bring in outside non-U of M accounts or provide access. There is what we refer to as Maizey API. Basically, you can use Maizey and you could build your own front end to leverage that data. Um, Once you have control of your own front end, you can actually set up any access you want. So it's not a simple click through kind of thing. It is a development task, but it could be done. Uh,
the second question is we have two assignments using UM ChatGPT and you explain the privacy aspect. If a
mhm.
student elects not to use UMG ChatGPT, would they potentially get a different outcome? If so, would COD be the different, or what would be the differences?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, and I don't want to go too deep into it. So let's start with some simple uh, answers first. So what we're offering is the exact same AI that OpenAI or ChatGPT uses. So as far as should those answers be similar? Yes, they should be very similar. Um, where might it vary a little bit? We do provide some U of M specific content so that it can, do better at U of M specific answers or questions and answers. So at U of M, I'm sure we all have this experience. We use acronyms for basically everything. If I were to talk again on the Ann Arbor campus about the DC or the DUDE, students here understand that's the Duderstadt Center. We've done things to help the AI understand that in these contexts, this is what, DC or DUDE means. Um, so that would be a place where the answers might vary a little bit. Now, there are lots and lots of large language models out there provided by Microsoft, Amazon, Google, all sorts of different options. And yes, students, if they're using something that's not ours, could get a very different answer because of the way those models are are built and trained. Um, so the parallel we have is OpenAI and ChatGPT.
Looks like a couple more questions came in. How do
Mhm.
faculty apply for Maizey course allowance?
Yeah, so if you're using the course and it's a course that's in your you have a Canvas site for it, there is a you can add the Maizey to that site, and in that process it goes ahead and automatically generates that allowance. So there's no extra, basically if you start from Canvas and you connect your course to Canvas, it does that automatically. And I can provide some instructions for that as well.
And then next couple
What's
questions.
the allowance for? Sure. So in the big picture, there are costs behind um, the generation of every question and answer. Now, many of those costs are in, fractions of a cent per question. But that's what we're covering. We're covering the expense that it costs to index the content you're providing in your course and the processing for the questions and answers. The $1,000 number came from um, looking at last year's usage and the largest course we had, and we added a couple $100 on top of that. Looking at the average expense that people have had when they've played with this, they're in the $10 to $20 a month, so this should be more than enough for the average course. Okay. So again, quick idea, what types of things can you do with Maizey? Again, the idea of AI tutors, homework assistants. You can have students can ask it to help them build study guides. They can ask it information about, specifics to the course. I'm trying to, prepare for my quiz. I want to review the information on heat transfer. It'll pull up all the information that's in the handouts, information that's in the syllabus. If you have lecture captures, or other recordings associated with it, it pulls that stuff up as well. Now, just to be sure, if you have pasted a bunch of YouTube links in, it's not reading those YouTubes today. That's something that's coming in the future. But if you're using the Kaltera, lecture recording software, the Kane provided lecture capture system, those things would actually get indexed as well. They index the transcripts to make them very accessible. Um, the Wolverine course design, this is another Maizey that helps you with course. Wolverine learning assistant. Again, these are other examples of things people have done with Maizey to create AI assistants. Um, I think that's the same slide I already did. Yeah, I've got I've got slide there twice. Sorry. Just to give you a quick idea, when I talked about what does it look like to have multiple data projects, so I could come in here and I could say, hey, here's a Google document or Google folder that I want to go ahead and index. This is also a list of websites. I have control over creating these. We have tested up to 50 data sources. Um, we don't believe that's an upper limit. That's just where we got tired and decided we had enough data sources, enough testing. But again, each data source, you can actually set its own indexing parameters as well. So think about a book maybe. The book for my course, I probably only need to index that once because my book's unlikely to change during the semester. Other course data that I'm releasing as the course goes on would need to be indexed more often. This is a quick picture of what it kind of looks like. From a indexing schedule, you can always come in and click the index button right away and it'll start an indexing job right away. Um, Typically, you get the opportunity to pick between 7 and 30 days. So we will do it automatically for you once a week or once a month or anything in between those two that you can adjust. Um, Quick update on what's going on with Toolkit. Toolkit does also GPT 4.0. It now also has 4.0 mini, so that's available to us today. We have 4.0 preview with some limited capacity. We still run GPT 3.5 in Toolkit because it's an older model, but it's particularly fast. And so people have been using that for research. Microsoft is probably going to retire that in the spring, and we'll do our best to make announcements about that before it happens. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about MyMaizey now. And so MyMaizey is our next generation for Maizey. In the big picture, what MyMaizey is um, it's an AI router. So today what has to happen is when a student wants to use Maizey, they have to actually know that a Maizey exists and that what that Maizey is good for. So if it's the Maizey for, EECS 280, I know that I can ask EECS 280 questions that Maizey. If I have one for my math course, I know I can ask math questions there. What my Maizey does is it actually is a AI router. So now I can just ask my questions to my Maizey, and it goes ahead and on my behalf figures out and finds the best sources for the data for me. Um, this makes everything a lot more smooth. The students don't have to, you know, go to their specific courses to ask their question. They can start asking more generic questions. So I could ask, what assignments are due this week for EECS 280, or I could ask a question of what assignments are due this week for my courses. If I ask specifically about EECS 280, it'll route to EECS 280. If I ask about what's due this week, it's going to look at all of the courses I have and pull up all the assignments for me and give me a combined, composite answer for that. Um, so that's one of the things we think is a powerful thing about Maizey is this idea that it can actually pull content from multiple sources and give you a combined answer. Um, so on my example here, my question is, I'm heading to the Diederstadt Center, or actually in this case, I'm heading to the DC. Where can I park and where can I get something to eat? And when I ask that question, this actually goes out and looks at parking and transportation information, dining information, um, building information. The building information helps it identify that DC is actually the Diederstadt Center. And so when it gave me my answer, it gave me, you can park in lots, NC 43 and NC 27. The Blue Market and the Pure Crop Commons, here are the hours for it. So I got this really, nice combined answer from multiple data sources. Um, and again, the AI is figuring out how to route these questions the best it can. Now, the next steps in this is work that we're working on right now is to provide more and more information about the individual, so we can also um, take and have some knowledge about who you are to help improve your questions, or excuse me, improve the answers. So if you ask a question, um, again about parking, and you're from Dearborn or you're from Flint, you probably want to know about parking at Dearborn or Flint, not at Ann Arbor. So being able to look at, which campus are you associated with allows us to pull up, relevant information and give you the best possible answers. Um, I'll touch on this quickly. We're also have instituted a new tool for my team that allows us to maintain privacy and also help with debugging. But as we talked about with other types of privacy, you're in control of this. So one thing that once this feature is turned on from a debugging standpoint, you're going to get this additional little red banner that says, debugging logging is enabled. But you control, our end users control actually when we can actually enable debugging. So they come in the tools and they can set us or grant us a period of time that we can actually log information. So the idea here is something's broken, you brought it to our attention. We can turn on debugging and ask you to go ahead and retest or uh, help us, generate the error for us again so that we can actually track it in this. Once we're done with this debugging session, you can actually revoke the rights to us immediately. Because it's time-based, it'll time out if you don't do anything. Or if you gave us 8 hours and we were done in 10 minutes, you can actually go back and revoke that access right away. So again, your privacy is very important to us. One thing I want, a lot of people often ask me about, hey, what are my opportunities to try to learn more about AI? I'm kind of new to it. I'm not sure where to start. I want to point out to you what we call the AI 8-week challenge. This is simple, short emails that give you a lesson once a week. You should be able to do these lessons in probably 10 minutes. So it gives you a short reading in the email. Then it gives you an example of something you can actually go and do for yourself, so you can actually go out and try something. These come once a week for 8 weeks. It's free to sign up, and there's no cost to this type of thing. But again, the idea is to give you opportunities to use the AI and get more comfortable with it. I'm going to stop there. Let me see what I've got for questions, and then I'll also give you a few uh, forward-looking items, things we're working on as well. Yes. Um,
Hey Don, are you
so
okay with
that link there is the entire slide deck. So it does have the link for the AI challenge in it. I'm sorry, did I cut you off, Joel? Or
No,
Scott?
no, it's Scott. That's what I was going to ask. Are you okay with me just sharing the
Yep.
presentation you did? So we're okay.
Okay.
So if you were late to Don's presentation or you'd like to review it at a later time, we are recording it. So we will be putting it up on the UM-Flint Gen AI site, once we get it edited.
So Jennifer asked, when will AI be available in email? That's a great question. It's something that I want to see too. It's more about development time than it is anything else. I don't. I wish I could give you a date. I don't have a good date for you at the moment. Okay. Well, please feel free to keep putting questions in there just for our time. I'm going to go ahead and give you some ideas of where we're working at right now. So my team right now is also working on a mobile app that will go along with my Maizey. Why a mobile app? Mobile gives us a couple things that we think are particularly interesting. One, it gives us access to a microphone and a speaker. So now you can actually ask your questions directly to it and or have your answers read back to you. Again, if you choose to, you can actually use the camera in your phone as well, so you can interact with the camera and images. So think about being able to, walk around campus, take a picture of something. What building is this? What departments are part of this building? You can start asking more and more questions about that. Um, Again, if this would be an opt-in feature, but to allow us to use GPS, which we could then use for wayfinding. So, hey, how do I get to building, um, the Dana building on in Ann Arbor's campus? Fine, it knows where you're at, it knows what the Dana building is, and give you directions. Um, I think those become more interesting as we get to do things like access to calendars or other types of data. So, I'm trying to get to this meeting, or where is my next meeting and how do I get there? Those kind of questions that it could actually just help you with, because the AI, if you grant access to it, can access these types of data for you. Other things that are going to make mobile interesting is we're also looking at what it would take to not just use GPS for wayfinding, but also to use Wi-Fi access points for wayfinding. So many times, Google Maps or Apple Maps, any of that type of stuff. Once you get inside the building, it doesn't actually help you find Office 310. Leveraging things like Wi-Fi data would allow us to actually increase your ability, not just to get you to the building, but to actually get to the room you're interested in. The other thing that both the voice and the audio tools are great from an accessibility standpoint as well. So, yeah, that's a big one. Availability for the mobile apps is currently targeted for January 20th. So these aren't all that far away. And many of the features, as we, similar features as we're putting them into mobile, they'll also make sure they're available in the web interfaces as well. So we want to make sure that we're keeping those tools as best possible, where it makes sense, parallel with each other. I created a study guides based on the modules in Canvas manually. Can I use AI to create a study guide from Canvas? Yeah, I mean that. I think that'd be a great use. If you used the Canvas and you used Maizey, you could actually then build study guides off of the content that it has. Yeah, that'd be a great thing. Again, the quality is going to be related to how good the quality of your information is in Canvas. So if there were handouts or other things that weren't included, um, you know, Maizey that wouldn't necessarily have access to the book unless you have the book in doc format or PDF format, those kind of things. But yeah, it'd be a great way to use it. The other thing that I probably didn't touch on is you actually, as a faculty member, when you're using Canvas and Maizey, right? This is true for anybody actually. There's a publish and unpublish button, so you can actually leave something unpublished and you can work with it privately until you're ready to share it. And then once you're ready to share it, you can actually click the publish button and make it available. So if you wanted to do these study guides and not make Maizey available to your students, you could leave it unpublished and do the work for yourself. Any other questions? And if it's easier, you can just unmute and ask me your question directly. I'm fine with that.
Don, the big subject on this campus a lot of times seems to be building, these public chat bots,
Mhm.
driven by, Ann Arbor AI services. Are there any schools or units in Ann Arbor that you're aware of that have done something like this yet? Um,
So I know that LSA has built an advising bot for their undergrads. I know the College of Engineering here on the Ann Arbor campus is working on the same topic. Um, the College of Engineering Help Desk has an AI um, help desk bot that they're using. We as far as Macy's, there are about 4,000 of them at the last count
well,
that people have made. Now, not all of them are public. I mean, I also look at them and because from a billing perspective, some of them like exist and haven't had bills in or haven't had any usage in several weeks or months, which leads me to believe like somebody did something, they tested, they tried something out, and then they never came back to it. Or maybe it was, great, it did this task at a point in time, but I don't need it anymore. Um, so they're not, even though all those exist, they're not all active. Last I'd have to go back and see how many actually course related ones we have for this semester. Um, but yeah, people are definitely using it. People are trying it, experimenting with it, trying different things. I know there's a Maizey out there. So incoming students have to submit vaccination records. Unfortunately, these vaccination records come in all sorts of different files and file types and formats. They've been using Maizey to ingest and read those vaccination records and then output them in a standard format. There's also a group in finance that I know is doing something similar with um, invoices. So it's reviewing the invoices, pulling out, um, vendor invoice number, what the things were, what the totals were, that kind of thing as well. So yeah, there's absolutely stuff going on with these tools on campus that are interesting.
so I've turned on the ability to unmute yourselves. So sorry about that. If you have any questions you'd like to, unmute and talk to Don, feel free. Or Dan, Don, jeez, sorry.
That's all
Talking
right.
to a Dan in chat, so I apologize.
Yeah, so the question here about the requiring a short code. Um, so as far as building content for my Maizey or for Maizey, it's the same process. It's the Maizey creation process. My Maizey is just the new interface to ask questions. Um, yeah, as I mentioned, if you were to go through Maizey, it does ask for a short code if you're not using it for a course connected to Canvas. But as I mentioned, we're not billing through the end of this year, and I expect we're going to extend that again into the next year. Is there anything under development to do text to SQL? It's a great question. Yes, we've got that. We've um, done proof of concepts with it. The challenge we're running into right now is compute. They're all pretty heavy from a compute aspect because it goes out and investigates the database for you. It investigates the schema, comes back, builds these queries for you. Um, and because of privacy and because of the way the security works, we spin up an instance um, for everybody who's asking questions in that space. So at scale has been our challenge in there. It's really a great tool. I want to make sure I want to provide it. It's at this point, it's just about when. How can we do it? How can we make it sustainable and available? But yeah,
Hey, Don.
text SQL is phenomenal.
So you mentioned that you have somebody in Ann Arbor ingesting vaccination records. I actually have a meeting with the dean of the School of Nursing here later today, and I'm going to discuss this with her because that's a place where they have to collect those things, right? Nurses have to prove vaccination and their
Yep.
students as well as they're getting placed. Um, who
The
who is
person the person that I'd put you in contact is Kelly Mileta.
okay?
Actually, Dan Mileta's wife.
Oh, it's okay. Thanks.
And she can go through the details. You know, they definitely have challenges with it. It's not a perfect solution.
Right.
And you know, but she can tell you about what they've done and you know where the challenge and pain points are.
Great.
Um,
Thanks.
yeah. Right. Well, I'm happy to answer more questions. Um,
So if somebody has some general questions, I don't think you've mentioned it so far, but you have some open office hours. There's definitely a place where people can go to ask information. You want to let
yeah.
people?
So attendance to office hours got slow over the last couple months, so we haven't scheduled any recently. But you know, we're definitely more than willing to meet or consult. Give me a minute. I'll point that to you. So you can always open a ticket with us there. But again, we're willing to sit down and, you know, answer your questions or set up a consulting call with you if you're thinking about, you know, what can we do? I think this is from my point of view, I think some of this is what's fun is the experimentation. You know, you all have great ideas like, can I do this with the AI? And sometimes our answer is we don't know, let's go try it together. And you know, we'll bring the experts that we have and your idea and see what we can work out and you know, come up with a solution for you. But that's part of the fun of this job is working with all you and taking your great ideas and figuring out what we can do with it.
Right. I guess if there aren't any more questions, we can call it. Thanks, Don, for coming today. Information
Absolutely.
was great. Looks like you've definitely sparked some interest on our campus, so thank you for that. Um, so again,
Yeah, and we're here to help. I mean, that's what our role is. So.
so we